Ayy, look, yeah, ayy. I'm in the lab like Dexter, brand new batch he tested. I'm with all the extras, don't try and bitch, I'm pressure. I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers. I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the New Media Podcast. I'm your host, Ya. We hope you enjoyed the last episode because, as always, today's going to be an even better episode. I got the whole crew with me. Everybody's in the house today, and today, man, oh man, do we have a lot to get into. So, of course, as always, what we've been doing so far throughout the course of each and every round, we're going to be talking about the conference finals today and everything that we've learned from that. Then we'll go ahead and talk about LeBron James and his GOAT status with everything on the line in this series. The draft lottery recap. We had the draft lottery about Tuesday. And so we'll go ahead and talk about that. And then we'll go ahead and close out with whether or not we believe the bubble deserves some more respect. But let's go ahead and get into it, man. Temperature check. How's everybody doing today?
I'm feeling amazing. 3-0? Are you kidding me? I could never imagine this. What?
I ain't got much to say, man. Let's get this started.
Not much for you today, VH?
Not much.
Well, we've watched some interesting hoops over the course of these last 6 to 7 days. But let's go ahead and jump right into it, man. Let's go ahead and start off with the Denver Nuggets and the Los Angeles Lakers series. Everything we've learned from that, the Denver Nuggets have taken a commanding 3-0 lead after winning their game 3 in Los Angeles. They won game 1, 132-126. Game 2, 108-103. Game 3, 119-108. Game 1, they won 132-126. So everything we've learned from that series so far.
I think the Denver Nuggets just have a bunch of counters to every single thing that the Lakers do. I mean, it feels like at every single point in the series, whatever the Lakers have done, the Nuggets have responded with. Every single time the Lakers have made a run, the Nuggets locked in and they made a run. Like, that offense to me is just ridiculous. And then on top of that, you have Jamal Murray with his shot making. I think that's just been a huge factor for the Denver Nuggets. Just his ability to get to his spots and just hit tough shot after tough shot. And that's like a staple of guys that are like, for example, Devin Booker. It's just, you just have to put your hands up and just say those are just tough shots. We can't beat that. When a guy scores 30 in the first half, I mean, are you realistic going to beat a team like that? And then, in that game 3, even when Jokic having a bad game, somehow he left with 24 points. That just shows the level of this team. And, one thing that we highlighted was the contribution of role players from the Denver Nuggets, and Bruce Brown, he stepped up in a major way. KCP, I mean, that third quarter when Jokic went out, that was the time for the Lakers to capitalize. And KCP had other plans. He showed up big in that third quarter. You're getting Michael Porter Jr., who's hitting that glass hard, and he had 6 assists in that game 3. I mean, like I highlighted, you're getting role player contributions from these guys. And then when you look at the Lakers' other side, you have LeBron, you have AD, and you have Austin Reeves. And after that, I mean, where's the production really coming from after those 3 guys? Jared Vanderbilt, he's basically unplayable. D'Lo, unplayable. Malik Beasley, he's not touching the floor. Mo Bamba, there is reports he might be playing this game 4, but is it too late by then? So I do have to give Rui Hachimura his flowers as well. I think this guy, he really came into this series and, he's been putting conscious effort to really get to his spots and score. But, LeBron James has not been LeBron James. I do believe that is because of injury. He has not looked the same ever since he's returned from injury. And, he got away with it in the first two series because he had role players stepping up for him. But when you're going up against the Denver Nuggets, you need contribution from your best players. And if LeBron James isn't LeBron James, it's hard to beat this Denver Nuggets offense, who they're just about as elite as it gets. And Michael Malone, I love what I've been seeing from him. It feels like he comes into every single game telling these guys that they're the underdogs, and it's like your guys are down 3-0. That's what it feels like when Denver comes in, and you have to tip your hat off to them, 1 game away from the NBA Finals. And Nikola Jokic, I mean, the guy's just phenomenal as a basketball player. I mean, he's an all-timer already to me, and if he's able to go all the way to the finals and win it, I mean, there's nothing more left to say about him. So, you got to tip your hat off.
It's been a sad week and a half. Very, very sad week and a half, man. And I don't know, if y'all seen it or not, man. I felt like those first 2 games, I felt like we could have pulled off with at least a win in Denver. I felt like, especially coming into the second game with the way Jamal Murray was playing the first 3 quarters and the way he erupted in the fourth quarter, I feel like it's been a tale of, the first three quarters, and then when we get to the fourth quarter, we just played a whole different type of way. We don't score the ball, we don't play defense, we become lazy, we just throw up a bunch of threes, and I just feel like Denver Nuggets, they've just been the better team overall. And when it comes down to that fourth quarter, they had their 2-star players show up and not our 2-star players. They have Murray show up, and they have Jokic show up. Game 3, Jokic wasn't doing well till he got to that fourth quarter. He came in and he had a nice fourth quarter. He took over that fourth quarter, and they had a nice run. They hit a couple threes, and just like the game before, they hit like 7 threes at the start of the fourth quarter, and they get hot. And when our guys are not hot, when our role players are not hitting, LeBron's not attacking the rim, he's settling for threes. It's not looking good for us. And the first 2 games, man, I feel like it was extremely close for us, and I feel like LeBron, that first game, I think it was down 3. He had the ball at the top of the key with Jamal Murray 5 fouls, and he forces up a 3. And those situations like that, it's like you got to attack the rim. You got a guard on you. He's 6'5", 5 fouls, attack the rim. You might get an and 1, or you get the 2 points, and you still got 35 seconds left on the clock. And I just feel like situational wise, down the fourth quarter, start even like the start of the fourth quarter, we start off slow and we give up 13-0, 14-0, 15-0 runs, and after that we're just chasing from behind it. Shout out Denver, MPJ showing up, guys like KCP, Bruce Brown, especially KCP, man. That third quarter he had with Jokic sitting out, he hit big shots, and they kept the lead in that third quarter. And those non-Jokic minutes, those count. So Denver been the better team these last 3 games, man. I feel like the series, it's been extremely close each game. I feel like they've been fighting down to the wire, but when those crucial fourth quarter minutes come up, and your star AD's not doing nothing, LeBron's missing shots, and then they got their 2 guys, Jamal Murray, one game he's going for 23 in the quarter, and then Jokic having a bad game, and then him showing up in the fourth quarter of a game with their role players hitting a bunch of shots and everything. So to tell 3 games, man, these guys have been cooking us, and we're almost done. The ride's almost over, Started off 2-10, 13% chance to make the Western the playoffs. We were 13th seed a couple weeks ago. LeBron got a torn tendon in his ankle. So a lot of stuff for fighting, but 1 or 2 more games. We'll see what happens.
Oh man. Yeah, where do I even start with the Lakers, man? In this Denver Nuggets series. Game 1, it was kind of like a feel out game between the 2 teams. You have Jokic dominating from start to finish, Jamal Murray chipping in, and they go up big. They kind of slip up in that third quarter. Lakers start to come back, and things go wrong down the stretch. LeBron starts to settle a little bit, and it's fine. You kind of expect that down the stretch. It's like, it is what it is. You lose game 1 on their home floor, it's fine. You got to regroup and kind of just be prepared and ready to come into game 2 with the mindset that, we got to go back to LA 1-1. And everything was going well for the Lakers. I think, throughout the course of that game, game 2, guys were knocking down their shots, and, the Nuggets were kind of slipping up from time to time, and Jamal Murray was struggling in that game from start to finish up until that fourth quarter when he erupted. But then LeBron, I've said it in our last episode, this guy the only way that the Lakers win this series is if this guy's the best player out there on the floor. And this guy is probably arguably the 4th best player out there on the floor right now. Probably go Jokic, Jamal Murray 1 and 2. Then you probably give LeBron's running mate AD that 3rd spot. And he's going out there mid-game, missing layups, missing dunks, and not really finishing normally. And now the Nuggets are getting out there in the transition game, and they're starting to get there in the fast break and starting to push the pace on the Lakers. And they're getting all the buckets in that type of fashion. And so LeBron James, it looked like he lost a step, so in this series so far. He looks a little bit fatigued. I'm not too sure if it's the injury, if it's a father time catching up to him, but he does not look like the LeBron James of old, or the LeBron James of these last couple of series that we saw from him. So, all the credit in the world to Denver and their game plan. Mike Malone said it, after game 1, nobody gave these guys credit for protecting home court in that game 1. Everybody was talking about how for a 7-minute stretch, the Lakers figured out the Nuggets by putting Rui Hachimura on Nikola Jokic and having AD play free safety in the paint. And, he's like, okay, if people are going to believe that's going to work in game 2, well, they're just going to have to go out there and show me. And then he continued to double down again. And then after this game 3 victory, he continued to double down even more by saying, Anthony Davis is just camping in the paint for 8 seconds at a time. And, it's kind of tough when in that type of situation. But, Game 2 went the way it did. Jamal Murray erupted, but Game 3, I thought the Lakers were going to come out with a sense of urgency, and with all the pressure in the world, with their backs against the wall. When you come out of Game 2 down to 0-2, right? You're going back to your home floor. The Nuggets haven't really done anything to kind of like sway the series in their favor. All they did was protect home court, and now you have an opportunity to protect home court with these next 2 games, and you let Game 3 slip up. Jamal Murray, a guy that I said had to step up in this series and be the leader in this series because of the matchups he was going to get. He's going to get guys like Schroeder, Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell, and Vanderbilt on him. Those are guys he can attack. And from Game 1 all the way until now, he's taken advantage of each and every matchup. I think he's probably averaging the most in this series, roughly around about 33, 34 points. And so he's doing his job. The Lakers, they just pretty much came out flat to start off the game. And then Jamal Murray's hitting shots. Nikola Jokic, even with him being in foul trouble, the Nuggets are still able to rally and can stay in the game. They always have control of this game. There was never a point in any of the games where it was like the Nuggets had like they lost control and like the Lakers were going to just, overtake the game and come out with the win. There was never a point. I thought that it was going to be a point in Game 3 with them being on their home floor and them feeding off their home crowd, but that just wasn't the case. LeBron James hit a couple threes in that towards the end of that third quarter. I thought the game was going to change in their favor, but the Nuggets were they were able to hang in there. And then once we got to that fourth quarter, I mean, Mike Malone said it best. Nikola Jokic was in the huddle calling all the shots as the head coach. He was pretty much running the show, running the offense. Him and Jamal Murray running the 2-man pick and roll, and they were pretty much getting whatever they wanted off of that. Whether it was going to be a Jokic layup, Jamal Murray pull up 3, Jokic passing out of that after passing out of a double team to hit Michael Porter Jr. on the wing to kind of ice the game. They got everything they wanted in that game, and pretty much, the reason why the Lakers are down 3-0 is because these guys haven't been able to outplay the Denver Nuggets 2 stars, LeBron James and Anthony Davis. The question marks that we had coming into this series, whether or not Anthony Davis was going to be able to take the punishment from Nikola Jokic, it hasn't been working out in his favor. He's been the best defensive player in pretty much this whole entire postseason, but now he's come across the beast in Nikola Jokic, and he's having a hard time trying to guard him. The Lakers have thrown everything at Nikola Jokic right now. They've started him out with AD on him. They moved AD away from him, put Rui on him, and each and every matchup, Nikola Jokic is flat out dominating. And so, as of right now, I think this series, we can all agree this series is pretty much over. But with the Nuggets being up 3-0, I'm pretty confident that the Nuggets take care of business in Game 4, because I feel like as of right now, the Lakers are defeated, like mentally and physically. I don't think these guys can just, come into Game 4 and, win Game 4 and then have to go back on the road and win another game. I just think right now these guys are mentally checked out, especially D'Angelo Russell. I think let's go ahead and talk about him for a little bit. This guy's pretty much been unplayable this entire series.
Yeah, I can't lie. With D'Lo, it's been tough sledding for him. I mean, offensively, he hasn't been able to find a rhythm, hasn't been able to hit his shots. I mean, I feel like that one play, you guys already are gonna get an idea of what play that I'm talking about. Kind of just explains this entire playoff series for D'Angelo Russell, where they grabbed the rebound, they kicked it out to D'Lo, he missed it. They grabbed another one, they kicked it out to D'Lo, and he missed it again. And it's just like that really just explains this postseason for D'Angelo Russell. I mean, he hasn't been able to get. I do want to give him credit for the first 2 series. There was times where he showed up big for the Lakers, but in this particular series against the Denver Nuggets, it just hasn't been there for D'Lo, offensively or defensively. He's just been completely unplayable. Like, all 3 guys that the Lakers have traded for have been practically unplayable in this postseason series. So, I mean, with D'Lo, I doubt I see him back with this team. I really, really doubt that he's going to be back here. So we'll just have to see.
Hell nah, he ain't coming back, man. Like, this is round 3 we're talking about. This is the Western Conference Finals, and for him to come in and give his absolute worst, it's crazy. He starts off the game forcing shots, baiting for fouls, not passing the ball. He's a cone on defense. They're putting him through pick and rolls. They're setting down screens on him. He's not chasing his defender. He's just in la la land, And for me, it's just the effort. And he doesn't bring that effort to the court. He doesn't attempt to try on the offensive side of the ball. He doesn't attempt to try on the defensive side of the ball. A couple of weeks ago in the Memphis series, he mentioned, I'm a basketball player on this team, not a point guard. I'm a basketball player on this team, not a point guard. And that to me, it showed me that, hey, this guy, he just wants the ball in his hands. He just wants to look flashy. He just wants to score. He just wants to get his own. And his demeanor shows that on the court. Every time, he doesn't touch the ball, or the ball doesn't go his way, or, he's not showing up on defense or he's not moving or anything, you can tell that, hey, this guy doesn't care about the team. He's just I this, I that. And I never liked D'Lo as a player. You guys know that. I always, crap on him past few years. Ever since the Lakers drafted him, I was hey, it's wrong draft pick, wrong team, wrong spot. He's not going to function here, and it just shows in this round. He has some big shots against Memphis. He has some big shots against the Warriors, but against the Nuggets, this guy's just been unplayable. And him being unplayable, Vandal being unplayable, Malik Beasley being unplayable in the series. These guys, they helped us switch our season around, but come against the Nuggets this playoffs, it's just the trade don't even work. It's not even worth it.
I feel like the Lakers could have used a guy that puts in a lot of effort, who currently is on the Los Angeles Clippers, and Russell Westbrook. That might just be me though. But D'Angelo Russell, this guy's a defensive liability. The Nuggets are doing a great job at attacking him. I've always said that the Lakers have 3 guys on their roster that don't play basketball the right way, but I've changed my opinion on Austin Reeves. I'll go ahead and give him that. He's pretty much been a solid third option for the Lakers, contributing 20 points in, I think, these last 3 games. He's doing a great job at, helping guys like LeBron James, Anthony Davis out in the scoring aspect of the game. But guys like Dennis Schroeder, guys like D'Angelo Russell, these guys just can throughout each and every series and every game that I've watched the Lakers play. These guys don't necessarily play basketball to score the basketball. These guys play to flop and to get to the free throw line consistently, to kind of put pressure on the refs. We're in the Western Conference Finals now. All that stuff could have slid in the first round and the second round, but as of right now, we're in the Western Conference Finals. A lot of foul calls aren't going to be called because of the way the game is being played and the level of degree being played right now. This is the Western Conference Finals we're talking about, and so the refs they're not going to bail you out whenever you're flopping and you're flaring your arms out and nodding your head back. Just not going to happen. And for D'Angelo Russell, it's just the series just hasn't been the series for him. And of course, a lot of Laker fans have had their hate towards him, and it's well warranted. He hasn't stepped up. He hasn't played. What's funny to me is this guy, after every single game, this guy continues to work out after the game, get some shots up, to kind of find a rhythm for himself. But I don't know. At some point, what are you doing it for? Are you just doing it for the cameras so that ESPN can catch you, so they can post you on SportsCenter, on Twitter and Instagram and all that stuff? Like, come on, man, you got to go out there and perform for your team when your team needs you. And so, the Lakers find themselves in a hole, down 3-0. Before we move on though, once the Lakers get bounced in this series, are we ready to call this season a failure?
Nah, they definitely not. I think when you look at it, I mean, how they started, the amount of injuries that they dealt with, just the entire turmoil of the team, the Westbrook saga, everything that went on with the Lakers. If anything, I think this season is an accomplishment. I mean, considering the circumstances that they started with and where they ended up in the Western Conference Finals, I don't think anybody envisioned this team being in the Western Conference Finals. Is this how they want their season to end? Obviously not, but to be in the Western Conference Finals after that start, I think that's an accomplishment.
I don't think any of us can say it's a failure. Like where we put them in the preseason rankings or before the season started, where we had them in our predictions was not in the playoffs or the brink of the playoffs or in the play-ins, So I feel like, man, making it to the Western Conference Finals with everything happening throughout the season, the way we started, like I mentioned, Westbrook on the team, everything going on with him, having Patrick Beverly, and then February came around, we're still 13th, spot. To make it here, I don't think it's a failure, I feel like not winning the chip, obviously that's like what everybody competes for, but at the same time, the way the season was going and all that, I don't think it was a failure. People are gonna say, "Hey, you have LeBron James. You immediately need to make it to the finals." I mean, it's not LeBron from 2015 or 2014. So to me, I feel like not a failure for us, but I wish we made it to the finals though.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you guys did come into this postseason with, obviously everybody was betting against the Lakers, and throughout the course of the season, like you guys mentioned, the expectations were extremely low, starting off the season 2-10. So I won't sit here and say it's a failure, but it definitely stings. After making it all the way through the first round, Memphis, you were the underdog in that series. You knock off a 2 seed. You go end a Warriors dynasty that's been running for 7-8 years, and then now you kind of make it to the Western Conference Finals. I think the Lakers just pretty much ran out of gas at this point. And then Denver Nuggets are showing why they've been the 1 seed all year long, and why they deserve their respect. But let's go ahead and move off the Lakers and Nuggets series, and let's go ahead and shift our focus to the Eastern Conference Finals, where the Miami Heat tonight have taken a commanding 3-0 lead on the Boston Celtics. In Game 1, They went into Boston and won 123-116. Game 2, they won 111-105. And Game 3 tonight, they won 128-102 in dominating fashion. So what have we learned from this series?
That I might just pick against my team every single time. This is hilarious, but it's just so odd to me if you look at this team. It's like complete stark differences from the postseason last year. I think we had issues with closing out games. We could not close out games. Our shooting fell off a cliff in the postseason last year. And then all of a sudden, everything is flipped. We're able to close out games. It never feels like in close games that we lose control. We're always poised. And then, of course, the shooting is just off the charts. I mean, tonight, Duncan Robinson, Gabe Vincent, Caleb Martin, a bunch of guys came in and hit threes. Kevin Love, before he went out, had a couple good shots. Everybody just contributing from this team. And then the defense has just been phenomenal. Just rotations in the 2-3 zone have really given Boston a struggle. And, when I look at this team, I couldn't imagine this a month ago. I mean, it was complete opposite. A month and a half ago, I was telling myself, oh, what can we get with this 14th pick? I mean, who would be available for the Miami at the 14th pick? And now all of a sudden, we're sitting away from one win from the finals. Is just a crazy turnaround. And, a lot of credit goes to Spoelstra and these players. A lot of people talk about how these guys are undrafted and, they were barely, they shouldn't even be in the league at one point, and then now they're playing in the conference finals, performing at this high level. I think it just speaks volume to the Heat scouting team and the development crew. I mean, you guys got guys like Gabe Vincent and Duncan Robinson and Caleb Martin and Cody Zeller and a lot of these guys who wouldn't be starters on other teams, and they're sitting here contributing to this team that was an 8th seed. And of course, you got the star in Jimmy Butler. I mean, this guy. Every single night he brings it. Every single time he's as reliable as it gets in the playoffs. When it's the playoffs, it's Jimmy Butler's time, and he asserts himself. And Grant Williams, he really messed up in that game too, talking trash to Jimmy Butler. That really woke him up because I feel like in that game, Jimmy Butler was really struggling to find a rhythm, get in his groove, and he was able to get to his spots. But Bam Adebayo, someone who I've been singing his praises for the longest. We talked about this before the series started, that he needed to have a big series, and he's been nothing short of phenomenal, offensively, defensively. I mean, this guy, when you talk about his impact, it's as good as it gets. I'll never understand people disrespecting this guy and comparing him to guys like Ayen and Sabonis and all these other below-tier centers that shouldn't even be next to Bam and the impact that he brings. And, on the flip side, when we're looking at the Boston Celtics, I mean, I think we kind of fell in love with the idea of the Boston Celtics and who they were last year versus who they actually are now. I think we were refusing to see this team as it is now because it made no sense that this team went to 6 against the Hawks. That shouldn't have happened. 7 against Philadelphia, and then now we're sitting here up 3-0 against them. When you look at this team, Malcolm Brogdon, at times he has been a disappointment in this playoffs. Derek White, after that first series in Atlanta, he's really took a step back. Al Horford's shooting has just been wildly inaccurate, and then Rob Williams' defense and Marcus Smart's defense fell off. It's really just Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown who have been the two guys that have been the main focus for this team. And Jaylen Brown, this is a guy that I've been talking about. You guys know how I feel about Jaylen Brown. I've said this for a while. He gets number 1 usage and, he gets number 1 shots, but when it comes to number 1 expectations, it's not there. You have people screaming Jaylen Brown is the best player for the Celtics. He's a guy that they need to turn to. It shouldn't be Jason Tatum. That's the number 1 option. Jaylen Brown has Mamba mentality. Jaylen Brown has not scored 30 points since the Atlanta series. Not once has he scored 30 points. I mean, when you look at this guy, how could any single team give him 30 million? He has a problem dribbling. He has a problem playmaking. He has tunnel vision. When he gets walled off in the paint, he starts taking contested shots. I think he's 2 for 20 from 3 in this series. Like, Jason Tatum to me is clearly the best player in this series. He's clearly the best player on the Boston Celtics. And for people to come here and sit and tell me that Jaylen Brown is the best player on the Celtics, I feel like is a complete disrespect, and I'll never understand it. I can never support Jaylen Brown. I just don't see it with him. I don't see him as a number 1 option. Your number 1 option being unable to dribble and play make just makes 0 sense to me. And if the Boston Celtics pay him $300 million, that's good for me because I'll be seeing this team for a while. So
Miami, man. Abdi, man, you gotta stop going against your guys.
Now I'm keep picking against them.
Tables even working. Like it's not even in your odds.
Yep.
It's not even
Nuggets in 4 now.
Nuggets in 4 now, man. Miami, Jimmy Butler and Bam. Those 2 guys, they phenomenal guys, phenomenal players, and they came into this series with a mentality. And Bam, you just gotta shout him out. This guy, season from All-Star break to the beginning of the playoffs, numbers weren't there. People were like, "Oh, what's wrong with him?" Even in the playing game, and even against like the Hawks that first game, and then against the Bulls, people were like, "Hey, this guy Bam is not, he's not this type of player." But every round, ever since the play-ins, this guy just against the Bucks, against the Knicks, against the Boston, he's just been playing fantastic defense, and he's just been showing up offensively when they need him to, and when he wants to. So those two guys, they've been hooping, and just the role players. I mean, we said it, right before the series started. It's gonna be, if Miami role players can keep this up, they're gonna have a fun time playing against the Celtics. And whatever they did against the Knicks, they came into it against the Celtics, and they're shooting lights out. Guys like Struss, guys like Caleb Martin, guys like Duncan Robinson, guys like Lowry. A lot of these role players coming off the bench, they're playing the role, and they're showing up fantastic. So for them to support Jimmy Butler and Bam, and Spoelstra turning a bunch of these undrafted guys into some hoopers, what a story for Miami. 8th seed, about to make it to the finals, and they're one game away from it. So, congrats to them. But Boston, we spoke about their inconsistencies in this playoffs. Their two stars inconsistencies in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. These guys, they're coming late game situations and they're just chilling in the corner, or Marcus Smart's taking his shots and Brogdon's getting his shots up, but you don't see Brown try to get his. But they're deferring to those two guys. They're deferring. They're passing the ball around, and I don't know. It just looks like a whole different Boston team to me compared to last year. And I'm not gonna blame Joe Mazzulla on it a lot, but it's going to be 60-40 on the players and Joe Mazzulla. So for me, them missing Ime, it shows a lot on the defensive side of the ball. They're not rotating. They're doubling a lot. They're not putting effort in defense.
I mean, these guys are historic on defense last year. Like,
last
literally
year,
historic.
This year, to me, it's just they're not showing that same type of energy. The energy is not there as like last year, where they're coming in every type of rotation. They could switch every screen. They had people playing great defense. But this year, to me, I don't know. So, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown this series, I feel like, their performances has been some shit. Jaylen Brown, I don't know if it's his hate towards Boston or whatever's been going on with him this whole year, but the fan base and everything, him, not being happy not coming into the season, but mid-season, but he hasn't shown me anything this playoffs, especially against the Hawks. And who they play first round? I forgot who they played first round.
Yeah, it was the Hawks. It was Hawks Sixers.
Yeah, he was Hawks. Yeah, those 2 rounds against the Sixers, against the Hawks. He only had a 30-point game against the Hawks, and other than that, he's been okay. Against Harden, he double teamed and gave up that big game when he shot. He wasn't a big contributor in that series, and this series again. So I don't know what they're gonna do. I feel like it's pretty much over. They got to pay Tatum and Brown $600 million for not showing up in the Eastern Conference Finals. So Boston got a lot to do and stuff. So shout out Miami, man. Shout out Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, man. Tuesday night. Well, that's gonna be game 4. I'm gonna be pulling up in a suit, all black, because that's the Celtics funeral on that night. Jimmy Butler's gonna put the nail in the coffin and end this franchise for good, and send these guys into a frenzy of an off season. And so, the Boston Celtics. I had the Heat to win this series in 7. It's looking like it's gonna be a sweep when they take care of business on Tuesday. But man, oh man, everything that I've said is kind of coming to light. These guys rely heavily on that 3 ball. And that 3 ball is just not falling for this Boston Celtics team. When you can get downhill and get to the basket and kick out to open shooters, and get these guys to knock down shots, like I said, it's one of the best brands of basketball you can ever play, and that's why the Celtics were so successful in the regular season. But I got to give credit to the Heat defense, man. These guys have taken away each and every option, and the Celtics are not making it. They're not helping their case by breaking all of these 3-pointers. Like tonight, I believe they shot less than 30% from the 3-point line. Overall, they're probably shooting in this entire series about like 26-27%. And so these guys just aren't hitting their shots. And this is a team that lives and dies by that 3-point line. And to speak about Joe Mazzulla before I get into this entire series, he came out today and said that he didn't have his guys ready. And I feel like this guy, they gave him an extension mid-season, and so he'll be around for maybe a couple more years. And so but overall, this guy has lost the locker room entirely. The message is not getting across to all these star players: Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, all these key contributors, Marcus Smart, Brogdon, and Al Horford. There was a couple of times in this game tonight where Al Horford was commanding the huddle and timeouts. I think they called a couple of timeouts in that 3rd quarter to kind of stop the Miami Heat's run. And Joe Mazzulla didn't necessarily have a word to say for his guys. It was just pretty much Al Horford, their veteran, leading the way and trying to get these guys riled up and ready to go and ready to battle. So they can kind of string along some stops and get a comeback going. But Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. The Miami Heat, these guys have shown fight each and every series, going all the way back to that Milwaukee Bucks series where these guys were the underdogs, and now these guys are each and every game similar to the Denver Nuggets. These guys come in with a chip on their shoulder. They come in with the expectation that with the mindset like, okay, we're the ones that are down 0-3. We're the ones that are down 0-2. We haven't accomplished anything. We know what the main goal is, and this is all just stepping stones into getting there. And so, Jimmy Butler, phenomenal. Grant Williams, you don't poke the bear. You F around and you find out. And that's exactly what happened in game 2. When things weren't necessarily going in Miami's favor, I think the score might have been 96-87 at one point in that fourth quarter when Grant Williams started talking shit. And next thing you know, Jimmy Butler strings along a nice 6-7-8-0 run to sway the lead back in their favor. And then after that, the Boston Celtics pretty much had no answer for that. And tonight, they just pretty much came out flat. They came out with pretty much zero sense of urgency to win that game, kind of similar to the Lakers, where you have your backs against the wall, but little bit of a different situation because you're going on the road. Lakers are at home, but still, you're down 0-2. You got to somehow, some way, kind of climb back in this series. And the Celtics pretty much they laid down in tonight's game, and pretty much the starters didn't play in the fourth quarter. Marcus Smart played a couple minutes before they pulled the plug on him, and so these guys have tossed him the towel already. Mentally, physically, these guys just aren't capable to keep up with this Miami Heat team. When you got guys like Caleb Martin who are stepping up each and every game, and they're getting contributions from Kyle Lowry and Max Strus and Duncan Robinson, a guy who fell out of the rotation when Tyler Hero was still playing for them, to now find himself in the series being effective and a strong shooter. It's just gonna hurt. So the Boston Celtics, man, a couple in our last episode, or maybe been a couple episodes ago, when we talked about them collapsing right in front of our eyes, I think it might be coming to light, man. Regardless of whether or not how we feel towards guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, the Celtics kind of have no direction right now. They lost a head coach that took these guys all the way to the finals and pretty much turned their season around last year in January, and then now they're in a situation where they're going to get swept off the floor in the Eastern Conference Finals, taking a step back of what they accomplished last year. And so these guys pretty much have no direction, and Jason Tatum, we can talk about him being a superstar all we want, but this guy has 0 points in these 3 games in the fourth quarter, 0 field goals made in the fourth quarter. I'm sorry. But he's not in the fourth quarter. Who is he come crunch time? And Jaylen Brown, I've conceded and I've already said that this guy is not the best player on this Boston Celtics team. I always used to think it was a 1A, 1B situation. It's not. Jason Tatum's a clear number 1. Jaylen Brown's a clear number 2. And Jaylen Brown, he's struggling heavily right now. The Celtics, they rely heavily on these 2 players, and these guys not coming up and showing out to play. That's the reason why these guys are getting swept off the floor. When you get to this late in the season, the Western Conference Finals, the NBA Finals, your stars got to take you home. And right now we're seeing Jamal Murray and Jokic do it on the Western Conference. We're seeing Jimmy Butler and Bam do it on the Eastern Conference. So it's looking like we're going to get a Denver Nuggets and a Miami Heat NBA Finals. Whether people want to tune in and enjoy that or not, I'm going to be sitting there and watching each and every single game, man, because that's going to be real hoops on display. And so, the Boston Celtics, there's not much time for them to turn their season around. They're not going to listen to their head coach Joe Mazzulla. I'm not too sure how much better these guys can play these next couple of games. And so, I'm going in with the expectation for the Miami Heat to just take care of business in Game 4 and pretty much prepare themselves for the NBA Finals, and whoever comes out of the Western Conference, pretty much as we all know, the Nuggets, and depending on when they take care of business, whether it's in Game 4 or in Game 5. And so, all the credit in the world to Miami. A couple months ago we were talking about Pat Riley's incompetence and him sleeping at the trade deadline, but look where the Miami Heat are now, pretty much a game away from clinching the NBA Finals. What is the second finals berth in 4 years? All the credit in the world to Spurlestra, man. Are we ready to confirm and sit here and say that he's the best head coach in the league? I think I can say he's the best head coach.
Yeah, it's not particularly close. I don't think it's close at all. There's not whoever's number 2 closest to number 3 than they are to him. I mean, the stuff that he's doing with this roster is it's ridiculous, man.
Yeah, by far number 1 right now. You put any other coach in that position, I don't think Miami Heat will be where they are right now. So Spo definitely, man. He's been a fantastic coach for years. Now he's just finally getting his praise. So it's good to see.
Well, of course, we'll be looking forward to watching Game 4 on Tuesday night. But with that being said, we'll go ahead and move on to the NBA lottery. On Tuesday night, all the teams that didn't necessarily make the playoffs had their fate decide. Their draft pick decided due to on lottery night. And so let's go ahead and talk about these picks. And the number 1 overall pick and the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes winner goes to the San Antonio Spurs. And so it looks like Victor Wembanyama has found a new home in San Antonio. My question to you guys is whether or not we believe San Antonio is the best spot for Victor Wembanyama.
I think from a development standpoint and the mentorship that he's gonna get, I think 100% that's probably the best location that he ended up going to. When you look at it, Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili and Tim Duncan have come out and expressed that they want to mentor him. And that's just imagine having 3 Hall of Famers coming out saying that they're going to mentor you. And then, of course, you go into Pop, who does a phenomenal job with any prospect that he gets. And you go into a place where, it's going to be low expectations. Not a lot of people are going to be watching constantly San Antonio basketball. You have a structure already in place. I think that's the perfect place that he landed. I mean, the development that he's going to get. Now, is it the most fun place that he went to? No, I don't think so. I mean, you could have Charlotte with, LaMelo Ball, or Houston, or Detroit, any of these other places that have, a star young talent in Cade Cunningham, LaMelo Ball, and Jalen Green, and a bunch of these guys. But when we look at it from a development standpoint and what he's going to get, I think San Antonio is the best place that he could have landed.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I feel like, San Antonio with what they got going on in the past and everything, and how, their draft picks with, Tim Duncan and David Robinson in the past with the big man they drafted, I feel like it's perfect spot. You got Popovich there. You got guys like Tim Duncan coming back to help Manu, Tony Parker. And I just feel like the system is perfect for Victor. I feel like, he comes in, they're a young team. They have a lot of future picks, and it's the right system for him, man. I do agree with Abdi. It's not the most funnest place that he's gonna be in. There's other teams like Detroit, Houston, Charlotte. He could have, they potentially could have been number one in for the lottery, but I feel like San Antonio is perfect for him. Popovich, we know what type of coach he is. He's one of the best, probably one of the greatest coaches in NBA history in the recent years. So for him to get this type of talent, I feel like he's gonna do something with it. So it's a good spot for Victor.
Man, speaking of Greg Popovich, man, this guy, I thought this guy was about to be on his way out in a year or two, but now that he's got his hands on Victor Wembanyama, I think we might see Popovich stick around for the next 5 to 10 years. I just feel like there's just no way this guy's going to retire knowing he's got a generational talent on his hands, and he's going to make sure that he's ready to go before he steps down as a head coach, and he's going to do right by the San Antonio Spurs franchise. And so Victor Wembanyama, I agree with you guys. I think this is the best spot that he could have landed at, because the development's going to be crazy. You already got guys like Manu and Tony and Tim Duncan that are ready to help him out each and every practice, each and every day, and have him really be prepared for what the NBA lifestyle is like. What the NBA games are like. And so Greg Popovich is going to do a great job at coaching them. Now the San Antonio Spurs have to make sure they construct a roster that's going to fit Victor Wembanyama's play style. And this guy can play, all 5 positions with the way, he's been playing in France. And so I think the Spurs, the ball just fell in the right spot for them. And these guys ended up getting that number 1 overall pick. And, I agree with you guys as well. I think it would have been nice for him to land, with the Hornets or the Houston Rockets or the Pistons, because, when you put him alongside LaMelo Ball, it's going to be box office. There's going to be a lot of primetime games for the Charlotte Hornets. Would have been a lot more primetime games for the Houston Rockets and the Pistons. But overall, in terms of getting the most out of Victor Wembanyama in his entire career, there's no better spot than the San Antonio Spurs. But now that we move on from the San Antonio Spurs winning the number 1 overall pick, we look at teams like Charlotte Hornets, who sit at number 2, the Trailblazers sit at number 3, Rockets 4, Pistons 5, Magic 6, Pacers 7, Wizards 8, Utah Jazz 9, Mavericks 10, Bulls 11, which goes to Orlando, 12 OKC, 14 Toronto, and 13 Toronto, and 14 New Orleans. Are there any guys that we're looking at, as of right now, but outside of Victor Wembanyama, that can, come into any of these franchises and contribute at a high level?
I think when I'm looking at this draft, I think there's 2 guys that are considered franchise changing players, or franchise altering players, and it's the top 2 guys that have just been at the top of this entire draft for the whole process, the entire year and a half, when we've been looking at Victor and then when we looked at Scoot Henderson, those are the two guys that we've just been focusing on all season long. And so those are two guys that I see coming into a franchise and like really changing what they got going on. After that, there's a discussion, with Amin Thompson and Brandon Miller and Asar Thompson, Cam Whitmore, all these different prospects. I think when we look at this draft, there's like tiers of guys. Number one is the franchise guys. Number two are the all NBA guys. Number three are the high end role players. And then number four is just like the role players. That's kind of like I'm not going to sit here and tell you Grady Dick is going to go ahead and change a franchise. That's just not going to happen. But what he is going to do is going to contribute to what these franchises want. And I do want to get to this point. I think Charlotte Hornets, if they know what's good for them, if they understand what is best for them, the Charlotte Hornets need to go and select Scoot Henderson. Scoot Henderson is a perfect pick for the Charlotte Hornets at number 2. I don't understand the logic of picking Brandon Miller here. You should be drafting for best player available instead of fit. Going for fit has ruined teams. I mean, it's like going with Ayton. The Suns drafting Ayton instead of Luka, or these teams selecting Marvin Bagley instead of Trae Young. You always go with best player available instead of fit. You're not a contender. Why the hell would you go with fit instead of best player available? And I feel like Scoot Henderson and LaMelo Ball is the fit that works perfectly together. I think that's a game-changing backcourt to have. You get another ball handler that's able to get LaMelo Ball the ball in different spots and get him to be able to shoot. So I think Scoot Henderson at number 2, to me, if MJ knows what he's doing, I think he goes with him. But, I have a really, really bad feeling that they go with Brandon Miller. So.
Yeah, guys after Victor, guys like Scoot Henderson, Brandon Miller, Cam Whitmore, the Thompson twins. To me, the only guy that actually stands out that you can not put in Victor's category, but a category beneath him that can play that star role is Scoot Henderson. To me, I feel like out of everybody else in that draft class, he's levels ahead. And if Victor wasn't in this draft class, it'll be obvious that he'll get the number 1 pick. I feel like him, his game, his style of play, it's gonna switch over to the NBA. For me, I feel like the Hornets, they're gonna make that mistake and take Brandon Miller because they need that position. He's a small forward. He got a jump shot. He's pretty lengthy. They think he's a good defender. And I feel like, I'm right there with Abdi. I feel like instead of taking the best fit, just take the best option. And to me, that's Scoot Henderson. And I feel like a team like Portland, sitting at 3, they got a lot of stuff to decide. They got Dame on their team and they have the 3rd pick, and it's either, do you want to keep on rebuilding with Dame on the team, or do you trade Dame, get more assets, and just rebuild in this draft and start from there? So I feel like they're in a good position to rebuild and, trade Dame and get a young stud in this draft. But for them, if they do trade Dame and Scoot Henderson falls to them at 3, they got a young star coming up to them. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, for those of you that follow Abdi on Twitter, very, very big NBA draft expert. You check all of his recent tweets. This guy's breaking down each and every player from 1 through 15. And so, I'm not surprised that he came in with the expert analysis. That's the guy we go to when we need to find out whether or not we believe one of these young guys that are coming into the league are going to be, franchise guys. And so, but I do want to talk about one, the Charlotte Hornets. Yes, of course, they do need to take Scoot Henderson. That's the best available player to add to. You can't go fit, because when I think about that situation, I think about what the Warriors did, taking a guy like James Wiseman instead of taking LaMelo Ball, which was the obvious number 2 overall pick. He was the second best player, arguably the first, with him and Anthony Edwards. Look how that turned out. But the Portland Trailblazers, man, this one's a very, very interesting one for me, because at number 3, what do? Do they trade that pick and go ahead and try to rebuild a playoff contending team, a championship contending team around Damian Lillard? Or do they go in a rebuilding route where they just keep that pick and kind of just build on the young talent that they have right now with Shaedon Sharpe, Anthony Simons, and then whoever they take at the number 3 overall pick?
Like, that's a thing, though. You have like 3 different scenarios, because like obviously the first one you mentioned, that Big H mentioned, where do they rebuild with Dame with that 3rd pick, or do they trade that 3rd pick and then rebuild with Dame, or do they go ahead and just to say, you know what, it's over with Dame, this experiment is done, we've tried it for so long, let's just get rid of everything, let's start fresh, keep Simons and Sharpe in that 3rd pick, let's start anew. I think, like, I just don't understand. They're gonna end up trading that pick. I have a very, very strong feeling that they're gonna end up trading that pick and keeping Dame. That's what I kind of get an idea of, because at this point they're stuck with each other. Dame obviously is not gonna come out and say I want to leave I know he was heartbroken not getting that number 1 pick. He really thought he was going to leave with Wemby. It's not happening, man. So he stuck with that 3rd pick. So that this team is going to look at it like, we have the 3rd pick. Is its value really going to be enough for Dame to really build a contender? I do feel like it's either going to be one of these 2 teams where it's either Portland or where it's either Toronto, or it's going to be the Nets. They're going to either target someone like Michael Bridges, or they're going to target someone like Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby. I think that's the idea that they're probably thinking at. Let's go with them. I very, 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 very strongly doubt that they're going to draft someone at number 3 to keep around Dame. They're definitely going to go out for a second star or another player to surround Dame with help, which to me makes no sense. Like, you tried this experiment for so long, it makes no sense whatsoever to continually try and build around Damian Lillard. It's not working. You guys haven't been able to go anywhere. Just blow it all up. Keep Simons and Sharp, that 3rd pick. Go select Amen Thompson if he's there. If he's not, Scoot might end up falling there, or Brandon Miller, and just rebuild around those guys. You have a bright future with those guys. You can go on an accelerated rebuild with the amount of talent that you have around them. But keeping Dame just makes no sense, man.
I already said my piece. I'd be like, keeping Dame to me is just, it makes no sense. They tried this in the past, and it's like, you're going to keep on doing it. You're going to keep on wasting seasons. You're going to keep on trying to find talent to put around Dame, find a second star to put around Dame. Or to me, it's just at this point, let him, try to get some pieces, some assets for him, and just rebuild around that 3rd pick and the two young stars that they have in Sharp and Simons. So for me, I mean, I don't know what they're doing. I feel like at this point they just want to keep Dame to sell tickets in Portland. Other than that, to me, they know they're not going to win the championship. So at this point, it's you make a decision, part ways with Dame. For them, Dame's been a legend for them. But at this point, you got to go.
Time is ticking for this Portland Trailblazers basketball team. Damian Lillard is 32 years old, and so I just feel like it wouldn't make sense for these guys to keep him around. Would definitely make much more sense if they ended up just moving off Dame, getting whatever they can get back for him, and next thing you know, just kind of build around the young talent that they got already. So, but for me, I just feel like the Portland Trailblazers somehow, some way, they're gonna keep Dame and just keep this pick and kind of just build off what they got right now, and then potentially deal with whatever they got to deal with in terms of Damian Lillard and where he wants to go next at a later date. I just feel like these guys, although there's some suitable buyers, for that number 3 overall pick in the Brooklyn Nets and the Toronto Raptors, I just feel like the Portland Trailblazers, they fumbled so many opportunities, with trying to go in a different direction, whether it was moving off from CJ McCollum and trying to see that experiment between Damian Lillard and Simons, and then of course the CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard era. It's like these guys just don't necessarily have a sense of direction of where they want to go as a franchise. And so, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if these guys select Brandon Miller or Scoot Henderson with that number 3 overall pick and have Damian Lillard still on the roster come draft night. But I think the obvious move here would be to move off from Dame, get whatever assets you can get back in return for him and his value, and then kind of just rebuild from there and kind of just trade everybody else that you have on the roster that doesn't fit the rebuild timeline that you should be going on. And so, it's going to be interesting to see how this whole NBA draft plays out. With the lottery being done, not every team knows where they're going to be picking, and so it's going to be interesting to see. And of course, we'll be right here to talk about it. But now we go ahead and move on to more current basketball, and we'll talk about the NBA bubble. The conference final shape up is very similar to what we've seen in the NBA bubble between the Celtics and the Heat on the East, and the Denver Nuggets and the Lakers in the West. And now with how both these series have been shaping up and how the whole playoffs is shaping up, is it time we finally respect the NBA bubble?
Hell nah. And I'm getting tired of every time I go on Twitter, I see, a bubble rematch. You have a bubble rematch. Like, it's the most annoying thing. I guarantee there's probably like 6 guys left or maybe 8 guys total from all 4 teams remaining in the bubble. Like, I just don't understand. Like, I think for us, it's Duncan Robinson, Gabe Vincent, Bam, and Jimmy Butler. I guess if you want to count Haslam, but I mean, who's really going to count him? But 4 guys. And then, of course, from the Celtics side, you have Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, and Jason Tatum. And then from the Lakers, you have AD and Braun. And, of course, from the Nuggets, you have 4 guys, maybe max 12, 13 guys left, 14 at the most from these teams. I just don't understand. You saying the same sentiment every single time. Look at the bubble, the rematch. We have the same teams back in the conference finals. These are completely different teams. Their philosophies, their play styles, a lot of it has changed. A lot of teams have improved. They've gotten worse. You know, you see the Lakers, they've obviously gotten worse. The Nuggets, they've gotten better. Us, I think we've roughly around the same. I think we're a little bit better all around. The Celtics, they've gotten better. So it just doesn't make any sense that they've been constantly using the same thing over and over again. The bubble to me has been fake and will always be fake. I don't respect the bubble. I don't see it as real basketball. It's simulation hoops. I mean, you have no fans there. Like, you see how hard it is in these playoffs to come into somebody's home and win a game. Like, it's basically impossible walking in someone's home and win a game. The bubble, you're literally waking up and playing at home. I mean, it's just not the same. So, you know, I don't think this validates the bubble at all, and I don't respect it.
Bubble hoops, man. Bubble hoops, man. Miami's back at it again. You know, they're hooping just like they were in the bubble. So for me, I mean, it's completely different, you know, because teams are different. Some players have gone better, some players have regressed since then. Teams are built different. Teams are healthier this time. Different schematics, different schemes on the court. And there's a different situation, you know. Like I'd be saying, you know, it's been tough this postseason to win a playoff game at home, not to win a road game at somebody else's house, and it's you see it. Nuggets, what 7-0 at home. Lakers 5-1. I'm pretty sure the Heat are sitting probably like 6-1, 6-2. The only team right now is just the Celtics. You know, they're like 4-5 at home. Other than that, I mean, it's been tough to steal a home game. So, for me, I mean, the way the bubble is set and how it's going this year, I mean, without the bubble, without the play-in, I mean, Miami Heat wouldn't be in this position. So, I mean, if it didn't happen 2020, I mean, where would the Heat be right now? It's a little different. So, I mean, I respect the play-in tournament, you know, and that all came from the bubble. So, keep the play-in tournament. The bubble's been cool. The Lakers ring in 2020 was fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. You're one of the few people that came out of that bubble, you know, with the ring. You know, out of all the teams, your Lakers were the last team standing. And so, for me, I've always been an avid fan of the bubble. I feel like bubble hoops was probably the hardest, you know, type of hoops you can possibly play, due to the fact that, you know, there's no fans, there's no home court advantage, and so you're waking up in the same environment each and every day. Your routine is thrown off. You know, everything is just different. You know, the Lakers, a team that, you know, obviously won the championship in the bubble, I think they probably still would have won the NBA Finals even if there was no pandemic and there was no bubble, simply because they were the best team in basketball at that time. And so people tend to forget all that, you know, due to the fact that, you know, the whole world shut down and, you know, the life changed for everybody. And next thing you know, we're playing basketball at Disney World. That pretty much overshadowed everything that happened from the months of October all the way until mid-March. And so, you know, I think, you know, with all four teams making the conference finals, you know, pretty similar to the teams that were in the conference finals in the bubble, it just goes to show that, you know, the bubble was some real hoops, regardless of how we kind of feel about it. You know, although some teams have changed and, you know, not many players have stuck around from those four franchises, you know, it's not shocking for me to see these four teams back in the same spot again. You know, obviously, you had a lot of outbursts in the bubble. You know, you had guys like TJ Warren going off and all these other guys that were hooping, but I understand both sides of the argument. You know, obviously with the fans being virtual and not having no fans, pretty much being in one area for about 3 to 4 months. But at the end of the day, you know, these players kind of they have a routine, like I mentioned. You know, each and every day people love to wake up in the comfort of their own homes and have that drive to go to the arena for a pregame shoot around, to come back, to nap, to go back and then play another game. It's like, you know, everything being so thrown off, you know, there were only four teams that were able to come out of the whole situation and, you know, be the last four teams standing, which are the teams that we're watching right now. And so, you know, I pretty much respect the bubble for what it was. And we're not going to see, you know, a championship be that tough for years to come, you know, with the Lakers. Imagine NBA Finals game 1 in Staples Center at the time. You know, like that would have been crazy. And that's pretty much what LeBron wanted to bring back for this franchise. And unfortunately, he wasn't able to do that, you know, due to the pandemic. But, you know, it is what it is at this point. But the bubble, I respect it, and I'm gonna stand on that for the rest of my life. But I do agree with you, Big H. I like that the playing tournament did come about of that situation. Although I've had my opinion on it, I'm still gonna be one of those people that watch every playing game simply because of it's high intensity, high intense basketball. It's high stake hoops, so I'm gonna enjoy it for what it is. But although I'll always have my issues with how the seedings and everything is played out, and between the 7 and 8 seed playing each other for one spot, those two teams earn their spots to be at 7 and 8. I think they should be playing teams from 9 and 10 for those last two spots. But now let's go ahead and move on to our last topic of tonight's episode, and that's LeBron James and the GOAT status. LeBron James, obviously one of the greatest basketball players of our time, has had pretty much an intense season. As we mentioned, starting off the season 2-10, and these guys to the Western Conference Finals, passing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar on the scoring list. But now he sits at a deficit of 3-0 in the Western Conference, on the verge of being swept tomorrow night, today's episode, when you guys listen to this. And so, we've always gone back and forth between the debate between him and Michael Jordan for that number one spot, for the greatest player of all time spot. If LeBron James ends up now getting swept or ends up losing in 5 to this Denver Nuggets basketball team, is his GOAT case laid to rest? Is there any chance for him to be the greatest player of all time?
Well, to me, LeBron could go 0 for 40 his next game, and that wouldn't affect anything. To me, he still isn't my GOAT. Jordan is the greatest to me, to ever play this game. But when I look at it, LeBron James, the health factor, the age, a lot of things, the fact that they started off 2-10, I really can't hold this season against him. He is at the peak of his powers. If this was LeBron James for 4 or 5 years ago, I'd be like, yeah, getting swept in the Western Conference Finals has to be held against LeBron James. But the sky is cemented at number 2. The only place that he really can realistically move up is upwards. So at this point, there's nothing that he could do that jeopardizes him moving down. There's nothing that could happen that really moves the needle enough to put LeBron James back down. But in terms of moving up, of course, this is something that will be brought up, is LeBron James losing to Nikola Jokic and getting swept. But at the end of the day, he's 38 years old, playing on a foot injury. That's with a team that started off at 2-10. I don't think this is enough to jeopardize his GOAT case, but he has to make up some ground. I still feel like he's like a ring away from making this a really, really strong case against Jordan. To me, still in Jordan's favor, and until he wins another ring, I'm just rocking with Jordan. So,
yeah, 90s basketball. Y'all know it's not real hoops. Y'all call bubble hoops fake. The rings Jordan won back in '90s, man. It's another discussion for another day. But for me, I always had LeBron at number 1 right now. I feel like this doesn't even hurt his GOAT case. Coming into the situation this year, especially 2-10, all the stuff happening like we spoke about. Him getting that foot injury in February and just coming back from at age 38, year 20, I just didn't. A lot of people's expectations this year was that, oh, Lakers are not winning no ring. Lakers are not, doing this. They're first round exits. They're not making the playoffs. So I feel like, once we made it to the Western Conference Finals, people started bringing up, oh, LeBron has to win. LeBron has to win. LeBron has to win. We're about to get swept and probably lose 4-1. Who knows what happens? And people are going to start using that against him, saying, hey, you got swept in the Western Conference Finals, Jordan never did this. Jordan never lost like that. Jordan wanted to lose like that. And it's like, well, age 38, Jordan, he was averaging like 13 points on the Wizards, and they were winning 20 games, and they weren't doing nothing. So, to compare situations and what year he's in and everything, and say, oh, this guy wouldn't have done this, or this guy, he's not going to lose like this, to me is just outrageous. So for me, the GOAT case, even if Jordan's 1 or he's 2, or LeBron's 1 or he's 2, to me it doesn't hit a dent on him at all. So for me, it's just like the expectations we had coming into this year wasn't, hey, LeBron has to win the championship, or he's number 1 right now on the line to win the championship, and if he loses, he choked or something. So for me, nah, it doesn't put a dent on his case.
Big H, you have him at 1. Abdi, you have him at 2. Abdi, my question for you would be, if LeBron James were to win this championship this year, would that change your opinion based on where you have those two guys sitting?
No, because Jordan has 6.
Does that argument ever get tiring for you?
Never. It's the fact that he doesn't have 6, and the fact that I'll always hold 2011 against LeBron. Those are the two biggest reasons why I'll always hold that. Okay, so he has 3-1 on his resume. I'll give him that. But the fact that 2011
Like
No,
that 3-1
like
ring is the greatest ring that we've seen. Like
yeah, but
anything Jordan could do
You
that.
don't think 3-1
But
that
20
3-1 comeback watched that 2011?
No, I don't think that washes away. It's a stain, like forever. Like we were literally seeing LeBron James collapse in real time. Like I don't think like people need to really rewatch that series again. Like LeBron James was collapsing against JJ Bray and Jason Terry. Like have we ever seen a star collapse like that ever? And just the context of that season, that's like to me one of the biggest chokes I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen a star choke like that ever in my life. So I hold that against him. The fact that he doesn't have 6, the fact that Jordan has like 9 scoring titles, there's just to me that guy's the GOAT, man. He's kind of untouchable. But LeBron James being 2 is cool though. There's nothing wrong with that.
I'm just saying, like Jordan just fed off of like nurses and firefighters and policemen.
Okay, bro. Jordan stopped a bunch of Hall of Famers from touching a ring, man.
I'm literally just saying, like, yeah, Mark Price on the Cavs.
Like Jordan right now would be the best player in the league, so it doesn't even make a difference to me.
No way. DeMar DeRozan. For me, DeMar DeRozan would be the level.
If he's DeMar, come on, bro. This guy can't. But you got guys like DeMar DeRozan eating this league. You think Jordan would eat? Come on, man.
I'm just saying, like Jordan coming into this league, the 3-point line, it'd be another DeRozan, just be a fantastic mid-range guy.
But if DeRozan's averaging 25 in this damn league, imagine Jordan with these foul calls and spacing, bro. He's averaging 35.
Like I said, the situation back then, him getting to play against one-on-one against a bunch of 6'1" guards and firefighters and policemen and church guys.
But Jordan walks in and he's the best athlete in the league, so it doesn't even make a difference.
Nah.
He's walking in the best athlete in the league.
Like I said, for me, it'd be DeMar DeRozan. You know, the game would be a little bit better, but
if DeMar DeRozan is a 25-point scorer, what do you think MJ would do in this league?
I promise you, DeRozan will go back in time to average 30 in the 90s.
Nah, bro.
Trust.
Too weak for that shit, man. He's too weak for that.
Think about it like this though. You got for example, let's just hypothetically say LeBron James and the Lakers win a championship this year.
Yeah.
You gotta think about the build up to this championship. You know, they start off the season 2-10. We've already talked about that, and we talked about them turning their season around at the trade deadline, coming into the playoffs through the play-in tournament. They make it as a 7th seed. They knock off the number 2 seed Memphis Grizzlies. They end the Warriors dynasty in the second round. They knock off the 1 seed in the Western Conference, and now he wins a championship against either Miami or Boston. That's still not enough for you to go out there and say that he's the best player to ever play this game? Like, after everything that he's gone through?
Because he doesn't have 6 rings. Like, Jordan was wiping people in the finals, right? Like, Jordan literally was untouchable. Like,
okay, let's bring up the 91 Portland finals. Like, Clyde Drexler knew.
Like, Jordan, if you look at his final averages, his playoff averages, his regular season averages, everything that Jordan does, like, this guy's untouchable. Like, you look at how many times have you seen a stat, so-and-so did this today, and then you look at it, oh, the other guy that did is, of course, who else? Michael Jordan. Jamal Murray the other day, he had a stat. Michael Jordan did it. Jimmy Butler had a stat, a 25-5 in 5 games. Jordan did it as well. Like, all these different stats that you see, Jordan did it first. Like, this guy's the greatest I've ever seen. Like, I watched the tape, man. You guys got to sit down and watch the tape. This is the best we've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, you're like 1920 back when Michael Jordan was playing. So, I completely understand why you're rocking so heavy with Jordan. But, man, I think, overall, depending on how this season ends for the Lakers, as we all know, whether it's in 4 or 5, this is pretty much the nail in the coffin, unfortunately. I just think there's no way LeBron James in year, 20, age 38, can overcome this. I think, it would have been a nice storyline for him. It would have been a nice storyline for him and the Lakers to win a championship this year after everything that they've gone through. But with these guys going on, the fashion that they're about to go out in, I think this is something that LeBron James can't necessarily recover. After 2011 and in that whole situation, how he folded in that situation, and he came back, won 2 rings, and then ended up losing to the Spurs the year after that. And then coming back to Cleveland and pretty much accomplishing something that's never been done, coming back down from 3-1. The 3-1 in the 2011 canceled out for me. Him winning in the bubble, I respect that ring. Not a lot of people respect that ring. Of course, as we talked about already, people have their differences in their opinions on the bubble. And so, a ring in a situation where these guys come in as a 7th seed and pretty much everything is back to normal in terms of basketball being played with the fans and all that stuff. I think this pretty much would have sealed his case to be the greatest player of all time. But man, with him going out in this fashion, there's gonna be a day where we watch basketball on opening night, and this guy LeBron James will not be playing in any of the opening night games. And so, we just gotta appreciate for what we got right in front of us. But I think with how the series is about to end up for LeBron James, his GOAT status and his opportunity to overtake that number one spot from Michael Jordan is pretty much signed, sealed, and delivered. And I think Michael Jordan is going to end up walking away with that GOAT spot, and he will no longer feel threatened from LeBron James anymore, because as we all know, he ended up dropping that One Dance documentary simply because of LeBron James making history and coming back down 3-1 against the Golden State Warriors in 2016. But with that being said, that pretty much wraps up tonight's episode. Any final words before we sign off here?
Man, 3-0, man. Not a lot of people can say that.
3-0, man. Not a lot of people can say that over here either.
You're saying it in the opposite way. You done 0-3, man. But we're finally winding down the NBA season. It's been a long season. I think the season's probably felt the longest in terms of how long the season has been. And so we're getting down there to the finals, the final stretch. The conference finals are about to be over within the coming days. Probably this time next week, we'll already have our finals prediction, and we'll be talking about the last two teams standing for that Larry O'B trophy. And of course, we'll be right here to talk about it all. But with that being said, we'll go ahead and close this episode out here. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. We really appreciate your love and support. We'd greatly appreciate it if you like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at New Media Podcast. And for those of you that are watching us on YouTube, all our social media handles will be at the end of this video. And if you're listening to us on Apple and Spotify, if you go to our Instagram page at New Media Podcast, you'll be able to navigate yourself to all of our social media handles there. So once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And of course, we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Record a new hit, then we making us a film. Wouldn't sign a deal if I got a couple mil. Been in the lab, now they throwing out deals. Me and now Lakes, now that's overkill.